The Hundred Years' War from 1337 to 1453. Very important war for these standards. Pay attention in this section as you read to conflict, war, balance of power, and treaties. Every war has a cause, it has a course, and a treaty at the end. It is also the rise of nationalism and the nation state. These are the key ideas for the 100 Years' War. Now let's take a look at it. The nominal cause is English King Edward III's claim on the French throne was thwarted by the accession of the first Valois king, Philip VI. Now, what I want to do is this name right here, Valois, is very important. Pay attention to that in your text and in your notes. The larger cause was the French and English territorial, commercial, and cultural rivalry. You'll see this as a constant theme throughout the course, is this constant tension between the two countries of England and France. France's weakness was that it was larger, it was wealthier, but it was disorganized, which allowed the English to be able to be successful in the 100 Years' War in the beginning. This is a picture that I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth in class because of the relationships between the people in this particular picture. The person right here is Edward, and this is Philip. They are related through a complicated web of ancestors. They are related, and in this picture, Edward III of England is bowing down to Philip. The picture is confusing because it puts Edward in a position where he's kneeling, but in actuality he's the one who's ahead in the game. Okay. The 100 Years' War continued. The first phase under Edward III is Flanders allies with England. Okay. Flanders is what's currently known as Belgium and the Netherlands. It recognizing Edward as the king of France. Why did Edward want to be recognized as the king of France? Because he was the grandson. He's related on both sides and has an actual blood tie to the throne. So the English seized Calais in 1346. The English rout near Poitiers in 1356. French King John II is taken captive. Okay. What they did in wartime is they would keep the king, hold him ransom, and then the ransom was basically the treaty at the end to get the king back, almost like in chess. In 1360 treaty, John was ransomed, as I mentioned. English claims in France recognized. Edward renounces the claim to the throne. Now this is where the picture comes in. Edward renounces the throne, but he gets a ton of land as a result. So when it looks like he's losing, he's actually really winning. In the second phase, the Treaty of Troyes, the English war effort flags due to peasant revolts. Well, of course, the peasants aren't getting anything. Okay, this is another standard right here. Peasant revolts. Keep your eye on that because that is going to be a common theme. Okay, every time I say common theme, that means it relates to a standard or an objective for the course. And we'll see it in an ongoing basis. He recommences with English victory at Agincourt in 1415. The Duchy of Burgundy joins the English, and in the end, in 1420, is named English Henry V is successor to French Charles VI, but both soon die. This creates another problem. When a king dies, they must have an heir. If they do not have an heir, people scramble to fight for position to become king and become in charge. This is a map that's of interest. Notice all this area right here in the purple. This looks like France, but really it's England. That's why the 100 Years' War can be confusing for most people, because when we think of this area right here and this area right here, for example, Bordeaux, Brittany, Normandy, we think of those as French areas. At this time, they are under the control of the English. Last but not least, in the last phase, Joan of Arc is a French teenage peasant, and she declares that God will deliver the besieged Orleans from the English. The tired English are repulsed, followed by a string of French victories. In the end, with Joan, she goes to the king, asks permission to fight. The king kind of blows her off. She eventually gets these victories. People rally behind her under the flag of France, and in the end, he leaves her to be burned at the stake, only for a later king to give her sainthood. So she's captured, tried, and burned as a heretic. Meanwhile, the French king is just sitting on his hands letting this happen. The English forced back to conclude the war with only Calais as a French possession. Summary: 68 years of peace, 44 of war. France is devastated, but it has a national feeling. This is the critical part to any question. And the English and the French peasants suffer most from taxes and services. This is the end result of that war. And there's a picture of Joan of Arc. Notice that it's two-dimensional, it's not three-dimensional. That makes it medieval rather than Renaissance. And that ends that section.